And once again, we are live on Facebook and Instagram. So if anyone has any questions for Joe Johnston, marriage and family therapist, and Dr. Kori Propst, the wellness director of the Diet Doc, feel free to throw questions out as we go along. And this is always my favorite part of our talks. So
good.
Jump on in, guys.
And then Louis, if you're watching this, hi. All right.
Shout out to Louis.
Shout out to Louis, right? Let me just start first, and because Kori's the expert here with you guys, and we came to Diet Doc probably about 5 years ago, and have been just so thankful that we can be part of the system, and we've just been advocates for ever since. And so,
And by we, you mean?
my wife and I, Betsy, and we've been just, of course, it fits right into Betsy's sort of approach to eating too, and just sort of refined the whole concept of how we eat. I mean, we were always eating healthy, right? But it gave us really a lot of structure to be able to focus on what we were trying to do with fitness. And with that, also, that kind of talks a little bit about my own journey. And I want to talk in terms of journey here. And we talked earlier. And to me, in the beginning, fitness was, I thought of fitness as something sort of external to who I was as an individual. And it was like, okay, so you're plugging in these numbers and just being able to understand the numbers, and as you understand the numbers for your body type, then you can build muscle, and then you can compete and win competitions, right? That's all it was, right? It's like that's where our mind was. And over the years, what I've discovered really that's really completely secondary to the whole idea of what fitness is about. And I brought three books here that describe in sort of a general term what to me, what my journey has how it's developed. And these three books in itself describe three different aspects of the journey. And as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about my journey in the process. And really interesting, in the West, we sort of divide things up and compartmentalize things and become experts at compartmentalizing. And we become an expert at this and expert at that. And there's really not an integration of who we are as individuals in terms of what we do in life. And I think there's a real failure in the West for approaching life like that. And in the East, you have fitness and who you are as a person combined. I mean, they don't make a distinction between, what you're doing with your body and what you're doing internally as a human being. And so as you talk about, for instance, 3 different body types, I mean, does anyone ever consider, we were talking about this a minute ago, that your personality has any aspect to what you do in terms of your fitness? And an Enneagram is just another way of understanding your personality. It's like a Myers-Briggs or a DISC or any of the personality inventories. An Enneagram is a really kind of cool understanding of who you are as a person. As you learn about who you are as a personality, then you can begin to integrate your in terms of your fitness. Also, let me just mention this. This is a really good book, and I know Kori is very much the cognitive therapist. And this is a cognitive therapist book, and it's a book about how to find your balance in life, right? So a lot of people think, well, what is life about? Life is about balance. And so this book is really about asking discriminating questions in terms of your own personal life of how you find balance. And then finally, I'm going to quit after this, but this is a book about the broader context that we find ourselves in, because we're not just in individual bits of information going through life, interacting with other individual bits of information. We are human beings in a context of influence, and we also interact in a way that's influencing other people in that context. So there's a greater context out of which we live, and the greater context is not only if you're married, you have a spouse, or if you have a family, you have children. But a greater context is the family you come out of, and the greater context is the society you come out of, the culture you come out of. All those contexts actually interplay with the way you interact in life. And so to me, fitness, right? Fitness is another way, and maybe a really good way, maybe one of the pinnacle ways in which it's not just to get your body in shape, it's to do your own personal self-discovery. And it's a commitment to self-discovery of who you are as much as it is to get in good shape.
So what I hear you say is it's not just physical fitness. It's not just focusing on your external self and getting to that perfect percentage of body fat, where it may be that in the beginning for you guys. That may be your ultimate outcome, and that may be your initial focus. But it turns into a literal game and adventure of discovering what emotional fitness looks like, and spiritual fitness looks like, and intellectual fitness looks like, and relational fitness looks like.
Absolutely.
Because all of those intertwine.
Right.
And I love the word integrate. I'm a big Dan Siegel fan, Dr. Dan Siegel. And I think, unfortunately, you weren't a part of the discussion last night, and how we kind of started the whole emotional eating discussion was in looking at weight loss as a practice for living your best life.
Right, exactly.
And how we approach food as a metaphor for how we approach our lives.
Right.
And becoming very curious about, and I love that book because it's asking the how questions.
Right.
Which can lead us to so many important answers in terms of who we are, how we want to show up, in what ways we want to live, what the values are that we want to be the foundation of everything that we do. Not just tracking our food, not just preparing a meal, not just meeting a goal, but how to be the best human. Okay?
Like for instance, there are questions that this particular author writes. He says that there are key discriminating questions for your life. For instance, is it in your control? How do you discriminate whether it's in your control or not? Or whether it should be in your control or not, right? Is it your responsibility? Is it too risky? Should you trust your feelings? Is it personal?
And these are yes or no questions.
Yes, but the thing is that as you really do the deep work, you're beginning to ask these questions that create a sense of balance inside of you. For instance, there are proverbs that go, for instance, should you beat a dead horse, right? What is the proverb?
Don't beat a dead
Don't
horse.
beat a dead horse, right? What does that mean? Quit, right? And then the other one is try again. Which do you do?
What does the situation call for? And one of my favorite questions that I'll ask myself and that I ask my clients to start embodying in their own journeys is, what about this may I influence? So that brings us back to, is this even something that I control? Well, maybe on a large scale it's not, but is there a piece of it that I can manipulate and influence in some way that's going to be in my service and that's going to support the goal that I'm pursuing? and support the values that I'm embodying and support the person that I want to become throughout this process.
And so as you listen to what Kori's saying, so take for instance, right? So if you're doing fitness to be a bodybuilder, right? Those are, you have certain expectations that you have that's going to guide you into the way you go about doing things, right? And so what are those expectations that are organizing your life in such a way so that you will reach your goals? And then are those expectations realistic or not?
Yes, there's the question. And realistic for you as an individual. Because it may be realistic for you, but it may be completely unrealistic for you. And so, again, I think coming back to approaching it as an adventure, as a journey, as a way of discovering what's going to work and best facilitate for you as an individual your values and within the context of your lives and circumstances and limitations. How to move through.
Right. When I first started this, I went to my doctor, right, and I was 45 years old, and he said to me that my heart rate was about 90 beats a minute. You know, 80,
resting heart rate.
Resting heart rate, right? 45 years old, right? And he says, you're going to have to get that down, right? And so I began a program of exercise, and it was in South Carolina, and it was, I remember the first day I started the program, and it was 6 o'clock in the morning, it was dark outside, it was 22 degrees, and I thought to myself, I really don't want to get up because the bed feels so comfortable. And what I did was, in my mind, I go, well, you know, I know that I need to do this because my doctor's telling me to do it. And I want to be healthy, right? There's an expectation. So I said to myself, I'll just put my legs over the bed.
One step. One action that I can take right now.
Right. And then I compromised with myself. And I said to myself, you know, if you want to lie down, you can. But I was able to put my feet over the bed, and that created a little bit of energy inside of me. Just enough energy to say, well, you can put your shoes on and your clothes. And you can lie down in bed again. And so I got my shoes on, my clothes, and I'm sitting there. And I'm thinking, well, the next thing I'm supposed to do is drink a glass of water. Okay, you could go drink a glass of water and, you know, you can take your shoes off and get back to bed. By that point...
Too much energy. Right. Go backwards.
But yes, what's happening is you're building... But what you're doing is compromising with who you are. And you're also... There are two sides of you. One side is saying, I really want to rest. And the other side is saying to you, but Joe, you know, you need to get your heart rate down. And then, of course, it started out with interval training, and the first thing I was going to run outside. And the first thing you do is you take 2 minutes of walking, and then 1 minute of really running as hard as you can. And I thought to myself, I really don't want to run. So I said, I can walk the whole time. And I got outside and started walking. I was looking at my clock because that's what you do, right? And then the 2 minute mark was up, and I thought, well, I can do it at least once. And I did it, the whole thing. I did the whole thing. That was when I was 45. And I'm 64 now. 20 years later. So there was a sense of, in that particular time, there was a sense of wanting to be healthy. There's some urgency there. But also understanding the context I was in and who I am also as an individual, where I wanted to sort of satisfy a certain desire in my life, right?
Yeah, so guys, you're probably wondering, so what does this have to do with sport?
Right. Right.
Support resides internally and externally, okay? We need to really begin reflecting upon what our capacities are, what our internal strengths are, what our talents are, all of those factors that have the capacity to bolster our momentum, our energy around moving into those steps that are going to be in our service to move us closer to the outcome that we desire. So we have all of those things that reside inside of us, and a lot of us don't take stock of those. When we talk about support systems, we're thinking about the people in our lives, but it starts in here. Okay, doing that assessment, skills, capacities, talents, values, ethics, that serve as the foundation for then us being able to go outside of ourselves and create the relationships of support that are going to further bolster the journey
Right,
and
exactly.
the discovery process.
And from my particular point of view, and Kori probably has this point of view too, is that we are reflections of the other peoples that we live with in life. So all we have is a sense of how other people are giving us feedback, right? So you are my mirrors. So if I am interacting with you, then I'm going to interpret your input into my life in a certain way, depending on how I value you and how, and also those things inside of me. I may be a person who really seeks to have that sense of validation from you, and it may be too much seeking that validation from you. But if you then don't give me the kind of validation I need, guess what's going to happen to my internal ability to maintain that course of action? It's going to be really difficult. So as a person who has this sort of reflected sense of myself coming from you, I have to also be aware of what is happening inside of me in terms of what I'm doing with other people. For instance, if I am really concerned about the way you think about me, right? Then my individuality is dependent upon your feelings, may be dependent upon your feelings, your thoughts, and your actions.
That's heavy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's a burden to bear.
That is a big burden, right?
Yeah.
And so if I'm so concerned about how I'm supposed to interact with you, then that's going to affect how I respond in my daily life about things. Because if I'm under stress, then I'm going to look for something to help me cope with that stress that may not be beneficial to my ability to do fitness.
And we can, if those of you are maybe not connecting with the fitness aspect, this can be applied to any aspect of our lives, especially what we're eating and the nutrition side of it.
Well, and I think in that vein, when we are so overconsumed with what is going on here, this dynamic is strange, it's a little bit uncomfortable, maybe you don't feel like you can share or be vulnerable with a certain person. I think that's a good segue into recognizing that not all forms of support need to look the same, guys. With some individuals, you're going to just want that form of support to be informational, for example. Oh, that person is a great person to call and ask for where the best restaurant is to get a great sub. Okay? And then you're going to have other individuals who are going to be the best person to open up to and share and be vulnerable with about what's going on emotionally for you, and who will be that very strong sort of guide that isn't trying to fix it for you, but who can listen and who you trust. So there are different types of support, and I think that's really important to recognize that when we're saying a support system, it's not, you guys have to go out there and develop this core massive group of individuals that you're just going to be able to spill your guts to. There's an element of discernment that comes into every relationship where you kind of have to weigh whether this is a person you want to completely open up to or not, and if that person is even capable of standing in that role for you also.
What happens, okay, that's perfect. What happens when you go out to eat, right? And you want to go to a restaurant, right? And you know you want to be committed to your goals, and you're with people who don't eat like you.
Has anyone experienced that? Both hands.
What do you do?
What are the thoughts?
Yeah, what do you do?
Well, I would get what I want, but that took me a long time to get there. I hear so many people say, I don't want to hurt these people's feelings. I don't want to make them feel a certain way. So instead we make ourselves feel uncomfortable, make someone else feel comfortable. And then what usually for me, I'm really miserable. And then when I'm really miserable, everyone around me, so at the end of the day, everyone's still miserable. So why not just, nobody cares. Why?
How did you get to a place where you were able to say who you were with these people? How did you arrive at that?
Or to assert your own values in the situation comfortably.
Yeah.
I mean, at first, I didn't go out. And then people were saying, well, you're not going out with us. Why aren't you going out with us? And I said, because you're always talking about what I'm choosing to eat. You're getting, you're getting really involved. You're trying to make me want to talk about, and I said, so it didn't seem like you were enjoying that, so I just didn't go.
Yeah.
And they're like, but we really miss it. And it just became, I just started a conversation with the people around me saying, this is important to me, this is what I'm doing. I hope that you're supportive of it. You don't have to eat like me. A lot of times my friends will say, well, you're making me feel guilty. I'm just sad. What am I doing?
Awesome.
I was going to say, I've had this happen to me.
Hold on a second. That is such a wonderful thing. To me, that's called a change back message to you. They want you to change back to the old way you are. And you have to somehow be able to comfortably interact with that so that those people can get the idea that you're not against them, but you are also an individual that's different than who they are.
I think that people tend, and Ashley had this conversation many times, that they feel bad about what they're doing, so they project it on you. Because I've had, especially not necessarily the friends that I choose to go out with, because most of them, they might make a comment like, oh my gosh, you're eating so healthy or whatever, but they still get it and they support me. But coworkers, if I go to lunch with coworkers, it is very much like, well, Ashley, she couldn't eat this.
She
Or
won't eat
She
that.
won't eat this.
Yeah.
Or she, oh, wow, you're just going to eat so healthy and we're just going to eat horrible. Or, oh my gosh, if Ashley ate that, she gained 10 pounds at the table. Those things. And it's because they aren't comfortable with their own choices and what they're doing. So they want me to eat better because it makes them feel better. Or they want me to eat bad, I guess, And I actually had this happen even last summer. It's kind of the same. If you go out with people, I chose not to drink for the summer last year. And to go out with people and you're not drinking, why aren't you drinking? Well, and it was the same kind of thing that it would, make them feel bad, I guess. Or they would try to talk me into it because they wanted me to be, like them.
I've felt that in my own life at times, and I think what I've realized, and as I've worked with a lot of clients on this, is that the energy that we bring into the situation in terms of what we're going to do and not do makes all of the difference. If we go out to dinner and we're like, can't eat that, that's not on my meal plan, can't, I don't know what I'm gonna eat tonight.
And your friends feel bad for you.
They feel bad for you. They want you to enjoy the evening. They don't want
when I had a plan, or I would find out, like, it started with me finding out where we're gonna go to dinner, and then I would be like, I know what I would go into it with a plan, and things became much more enjoyable, and I was, you know, I just kept a positive attitude about it, and I didn't get nervous, and I didn't feel attacked when they would start saying those things, and I just said, well, it just kind of organically just came together, and now then they want to know what you're doing, and they start making healthy changes for themselves, whether they need to or not, but they just see that you're not doing this because you feel like you have to, or what you're doing this because it makes you happy. So this makes me happy.
Yes, and when
I
your
work in
energy
energy,
shifts,
yeah.
their energy
Yeah.
begins to shift. And if you're consistent with it, I've seen this over and over again. When an individual is in a situation like this, and if someone walks up to me and is like, "You're not drinking?" and I'm like, "No, I feel awesome. I'm like, I love ice water."
That's right.
How can they be like, what are they gonna do?
Right.
in
Rather
that
than,
situation?
no,
Yeah.
I'm not drinking today. Yeah.
They're usually like, they probably won't say anything, or they'll just stand there and like,
Okay.
all right.
So,
I think Amber has a point about even like you're saying, changing the language, because for me that's been something that's helped me at work. When people say, you know, like if I heat up my lunch and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're eating something that's not healthy today because you know I have tacos or whatever," and then to be able to say, "Oh, you know, I can eat these things," or just to tweak things to make it to be healthy. But I think going into a restaurant, like you're saying, not going, "Oh, you know, I can't have the French fries," or just instead just be like, "Man, I'm really craving a good salad today." That's, you know, and to make it about I'm choosing something, not being boxed in that I
Yes.
can't have something, and make it a positive.
Because you can.
Because
You can.
Always have.
well,
Yes,
and your
always
friends
choices.
want to protect you.
Yeah.
They want you to feel good. I can't tell you how many times someone has approached a situation like you've described, and their friends are like, "Well, aren't you hungry all the time? Like, what's that like for you?" And they want to change that energy and that element of meh-ness, that heaviness.
And so she said protect, which is an interesting dynamic, a contextual dynamic, right? So how does it feel to you to have someone come in wanting to protect you? That can generate in you reactivity that may be negative, right? Or are you okay with it and saying, "No, I don't need to be protected"? Not that you would actually articulate that, but you feel it, and so you have this sort of plan inside of you that says, "Well, I like ice water," you know? So that in itself can take, it projects back to the person, "I don't need to be protected, and I'm okay."
Yeah, so the part of this is you guys thinking through how you're going to approach situations like that. If this happens, how will I respond? If this person says this to me, like go back in time, because people have said things to you, and in the past you haven't known what to say or what to do or how to act. If they say this, this is how I will respond. I've been in situations where I've been asked at least 11 times at a party by 11 different people to try the dessert.
Right. Was your mom
I ran out of different responses after number 4.
right.
But
You really want me to try the dessert, don't you? I think
it's
so.
super important to you, isn't it? And I held my ground.
That's right.
I held my ground, but I
In a
was,
polite way.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to take responsibility either for everyone else's emotions at that table.
Right. It's key.
Now, it's one thing though to have these interactions with friends and coworkers where it's like, I'm only with these people, you know, so often, but a bigger obstacle that so many of us run into is when we go home and our partner or spouse or family members are just completely not on board with what we're doing. They miss the old way. They don't want us to be doing it. They maybe need to be losing weight too. But we're trying to make these choices, and they show up with our favorite foods. And, you know, how do we go about interacting with the this person that is supposed to be your biggest cheerleader, your greatest confidant, your life partner, when they are not on the train with you.
And
So
repeatedly, multiple times ask them to not buy that.
So I have a little bit of a different take on how that relationship should look and what is really appropriate to expect of your partner. Our intimate partners are not I'll speak for myself.
Okay.
I don't believe that they are supposed to be 100% everything for us.
Right.
And that is a horrible thing to put on them.
She's absolutely right. Absolutely.
No one should have to take that much responsibility for my happiness
Right.
and my well-being. That's a heavy burden to bear. And they're going to fail.
Right.
We are setting our partners up for failure if we're expecting them to be our diet cheerleaders
Right.
and our ultimate confidants and
The person who takes the chips out of your hand.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Yes.
So that as a foundation, that's why we need support systems, and that's why it's so important to cultivate them in our lives, because each person is going to serve a little bit of a different role for us.
To the degree that you are dependent upon the other person's sense of validation for you in your life will determine the level of conflict that you will have in your relationship with the other person. To the degree that you are independent of the validation, that your validation comes from inside of you, the better your relationships will be. So that means you accept the other person in a more realistic way, and that you accept yourself in a more realistic way.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. And the
He's smart, guys.
differences between you are not indicative of something that's wrong with either one of you.
Right.
But they're opportunities to learn and understand each other.
So if he brings donuts, you can eat them or not. And he may go, well, honey, can't you relax on vacation? So
Isn't
guess,
this flexible dieting? You can eat anything.
yeah, he even uses words, right? Which is a little form of what? What is that?
Manipulation, guilt.
Well, it may be his issue, but he may be truly going, I really want you to enjoy life, right? And so it may be a little bit of projection. It may be just his desire to have you feel good in life. And at that particular point, you go, well, what do I want to do? What do I really want to do?
And I would add, Joe, if you assume the worst of this person when they bring the donuts into the house, that's where the conflict internally and between you is going to begin. If you assume that they're like, what is he doing? Does he not care?
Right. If it becomes,
is he trying to sabotage me here?
If there is anxiety and anger that goes up inside of you, that means that you are then dependent upon the other person's validation. You see? If your expectation is that he's supposed to respond to you in your weakness, who's in charge? You are. I can't believe he brought those donuts.
What a jerk.
What a jerk.
He must not care about me at all.
He must not care about me. Right? Who's in charge? Your level of anxiety is in charge at that point, even as you get angry.
Honey, it's so nice of you to think to bring these donuts home.
Right.
I used to eat these all the time.
Thank you so much. Right?
Yeah. I think for breakfast today, I'm going to choose to have an egg white omelet.
Right. Yeah.
Now, honey might respond in a little bit of a dejected way.
And that's his issue. That's his issue. Right? That's his responsibility. So really, see how fitness helps you grow as an individual? You know, all of a sudden, all these dynamics begin to take place inside of you. You begin to think, who am I and what am I about? And what are these things called relationships? And how am I supposed to interact with people in a way that's healthy? And so he might really get upset. And then what do you do with that?
Have you guys experienced anything like this in your own relationships?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weekly, you know, every other day. I mean, it's a huge conflict. I think something that you said earlier with relying on, he heavily relies on me for his whole, like, he has one friend that he talks to. And so, yeah, and I didn't realize how much of a,
That'd be for you.
yeah, didn't realize how heavy that was.
And I wonder if part of that, Anne, is that you've put yourself in that position because you're assuming that he needs you in that role, or if he overtly has said, Anne, you are my everything. I need you for this and this and this and this and this and this and this in my life. And so that might be a conversation that you have.
Right.
Because this feeling that you have right now, that's your responsibility to check in with yourself and probably with him.
Absolutely. Well, and I think, like for me now, I have enough tools and I've learned enough that I feel like I have enough control now where I can say no, or I can choose to eat it or track it or whatever, but I worry about other family members as well a lot. So we talked about that a little bit. So that would be something that, you know, I don't know how to exactly deal with. Because it makes me very angry, especially when it comes to their health and, you know, because I'm scared, yeah. Because we talked about the whole pre-diabetes thing and how it's very scary.
There's nothing wrong with talking about what your concerns are at all. You can, and you have your particular opinion about what they're doing in their life. And it's important for you to be able to articulate who you are to your spouse or to your loved ones. It's really important. The problem is that when you begin to get into the willing of it, one person trying to will the other person into position, right?
Right.
And that's when it gets really confusing. And that's when people really, and so you articulate and you let go. You articulate and you let go, right? Right. Think about, if my wife's Jewish, so I don't know if anybody knows that here, but think about if you have a Jewish or an Italian mother, right? And you go home, right? And you're trying to eat. Now this is really good because you're a child, right?
Or an adult.
Or, I mean, you're still the child, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, forever.
When you go home to see your parents, you become a child in many ways.
Forever.
In that role, you are back in that role.
You're back in that role. And are you able to articulate in a comfortable way with your family members?
You should tell the joke.
What about the Italian? You go ahead and tell it.
Oh, I'm going to botch it. Basically, you go...
How do you know the difference between an
the
Italian
difference-
mother and
yeah.
a Jewish mother when you're eating?
When you're eating.
Right? The Italian mother says, if you don't eat that, I'm going to kill you. And the Jewish mother says, if you don't eat that, that'll kill me.
Jewish guilt. Ha ha ha.
Right, exactly. Right. So, but those are real.
Those are real
It's
things.
a humorous thing, but it's a real thing when you're interacting with
a mother who's going, you need to eat. Why? This is love.
Right.
This is I love you.
I still deal with that.
Yeah.
Right.
I will be 40 when I go home, and even on the phone, my mom will ask me, "How are you eating?"
And there can be a fight just like that.
There could be a fight, but there doesn't need to be a fight. I get that she's concerned. She's my mom. She wants to know that I'm healthy and that I'm thriving. And I can have that conversation with her, and I can say, Mom, I'm eating really well.
But what do you do in those situations where you go home and let's say you have that Italian mother and grandmother, you know, the noni who's made this huge meal, and it's like, oh, comfort.
Well, you're getting back into your child.
You know, it's like,
this
is how I relate with my people.
You're falling,
this is what goes through. I mean, we have clients ask us this all the time.
You're falling back into your
I
systemic
can't
context.
go home. I've heard I cannot go home and not eat.
Then I would say that you need to do. You need to learn how to challenge yourself to go back home and be able to establish your own sense of self within your family. That would be a perfect exercise.
This may be the last time that my noni is alive and she makes gnocchi for me or whatever it is.
I didn't eat gnocchi.
I don't know. You know, I lost my grandfather, you know, like whatever it is.
So you see how it's connected to an emotional reaction that's taking place in your life, and you're eating your emotion.
Mm-hmm.
You're not eating for your fitness, you're eating for your emotion. You're not eating for yourself, you're eating for your emotion.
And you're eating for the other person.
Okay, so this is discriminate. You have to discriminate, right?
Yeah.
Is it okay for me to eat for my emotion?
Yes.
Sometimes, yes. Is it okay not to eat for my? Yes. How do you know the difference? You have to think about that in your life. This is the balance you have to take.
What's my motivation? What's the incentive? What's guiding me? And when I do it, what are the implications going to be? I think these are valuable questions to ask.
But isn't that where the flexible dieting comes in? I hate calling it dieting.
The program.
Structured flexibility.
It's a tool, I don't know. But like, yes, you know when you get to gnocchi, you know that you're going to go.
Right. You can, and well, that's when the shift happens, right? You've been doing it long enough that you know that you can go and you can eat with your family and be present and enjoy it and have a healthy interaction and move on from it.
And not feel a sense of obligation to keep eating the gnocchi. And when your mom is like, aren't you gonna have more? You have dessert. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to add something to the idea of flexible structure, right? So that is called adaptability, right? That's adaptability. Are you going to are you going to be, and the ends of adaptability are rigidity and chaos, right? So you have flexibility within that, right? Flexible and then structure. Structure is more closely aligned with rigidity. Flexibility is more closely aligned with chaos. Chaos, right? No structure at all. On the other side of the scale, you have these two scales, right? That fit with you as an individual. So it's not just adaptability, it's also cohesion. So you go, cohesion is disengaged and enmeshed. Yes?
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
To your point, because you guys are really throwing a lot in there of making everybody feel like you are autonomous, you can make these decisions, but where do you see it falling in? Like, let's say the spouse brings the donut in, and Kori said, well, thank you, honey, but I'm going to have my anyway. Where do you draw a line and say, you know what, that was amazing, honey, that's awesome, I'm gonna take a bite of yours. And then, because you're in the middle of the diet, you might think, okay, now I have to have one less bite of my bagel, or maybe I'll save 5 grams of carbs. But isn't there a point in time where you draw a line where you say, you know what, because my spouse is providing such a bid of affection for me, I'm going to accept it. I'm going to make up for that later.
Do you want to?
Well, I think that's also a question. That also ends up, it's not that you shouldn't eat it, or take it, but it's a question you have in terms of how you discriminate what you want to do at that particular time, right? Because there's nothing wrong with eating it, yet at the same time, you also have the ability to self-assert and say, no, I don't want to eat it. So, and that has to do with the cohesion part, disengage as opposed to very close as opposed to not close at all. So what you're doing in your own interaction with the person is evaluating where you are in that context. And it may be that you would say, yeah, I can eat it. Yeah, thank you so much, and I'll take the donut. You can say that. At the same time, you might say, if you find yourself being pushed in one direction or the other because of reactivity, then you probably are not finding the balance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that right along the line of what I was thinking too is that it's going to be contextual. And you heard me say, Joe, that it operates on a continuum. It's never just this way or that way. There are a bunch of gray areas. And so depending on the context of where you guys are in your relationship and just within that day, like, are you getting along and do you feel cohesive together? I mean, your response in that situation may be very different than the response if, you know, you're at odds and he brings the donuts home as kind of a bit of attention and a gift and a peace offering.
Right.
Like, it's going to look very, very different depending upon the circumstances.
Right.
Yeah.
So if that would be an interesting thing for that he's making a bid for connection by bringing donuts home when he knows that you don't want to eat donuts.
Right.
I mean that's kind of like, duh,
If we've had
right?
a conversation that donuts are just not something that I'm real interested in incorporating into my nutrition right now, and then he does that.
But you don't reject the intention,
Yes.
right? So you say, you're so sweet.
There's the gratitude
Thank you so
part,
much.
the acknowledgement.
You are so sweet. You're just clueless. You're just clueless. And to be able to say that, okay? To be able to, with a sense of confidence, with a sense of humor, with a sense of welcome, it creates a sense of ease.
Honey, you are clueless. That's very different than like, you are clueless.
Right.
That's
Right.
going to be accepted in a very different way.
Right. And so what you're doing is also doing your own self-discovery as you go through these struggles with your spouse, with your loved one. It's a journey. It's a journey of yourself. It's not just you're getting fit. It's not just your body is getting fit. I want to destroy the idea that who you are is independent of what you're trying to do with your eating. It's a part. It's an interactional, relational dynamic that's taking place in the world of fitness. You know, and it's just another way of developing as a human being. And see, to do that, all right, think about this. Are you really interested in understanding who you are? Not just how I can lose weight and maintain a weight. Are you really understanding do you really want to know who you are?
You guys know that this is at the crux of the whole mindset component of the diet doc. Who am I? Why do I do what I do? Is what I do purposeful? Is it intention? Or is it just rote and automatic and I do it because I've always done it? So there's the reflective component that Joe is talking about throughout your entire weight loss journey. Weight loss as a practice for becoming who you want to be.
And it's reflected in your fitness goals, right? Because those are going to change over time. I mean, you're going to age. You're not going to be able to do the things you used to do, right? You're going to have to mentally adjust. If you're rigid in your perspective about how you should live life, that's going to be really difficult, and you're going to probably give up. You have to learn to be flexible. You have to learn to think flexibly about your life, and as you go through the journey of this thing called life, because you are going to change. And so it's really a journey about understanding how you change with the goal of fitness.
You guys have questions?
So last night I was at a restaurant, right? And so I went out to eat with some friends. I hate eating alone. My wife's in New York. I go to my neighbor's house with the goal. They didn't know this, I wanted to go out to eat with them. They didn't know this, right? So I like my neighbors. So they're younger than we are, and so I'm outside like doing things, and they come up, and I said, well, let's go out to eat. And they love to eat, and they're not really into fitness, and so I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I want to go out to eat with them.
They're going to want to go somewhere.
They were going to go to an Italian restaurant and eat lots of pasta, right? I'm thinking, okay, if I have to do that, I will. Because I don't want to eat by myself, right? I'm making choices, right? And so we go in the house and we start talking about where to eat. And I go, and I know I'm more flexible about eating than they are. Because we've talked about eating. They have a particular way, things that they will eat and won't eat. I said to them, I'm more flexible about eating than you are. You guys pick the restaurant. I know I'm putting myself in a situation where I might have to eat things that I may not, it's not going to really. And I'm going to South Carolina, and the goal is I want to get down to 185 if I can, close to 185 if I can, right? So I know if I go to a pasta restaurant, it's going to delay the process, right? But I want to have fun. I want to go with them. So I said, where do you want to eat? And they go, and they say a couple of places. And I said, well, do you ever eat at North Star? North Star is like a sort of a healthy place to eat in this town. And I have a meal there that I can eat, that I create. They know Betsy and I go to North Star on Thursday evenings, and we have a meal, and then we walk up to the counter, and they know exactly what we want. We create our meal.
The Joe special.
This is the Joe special, Joe and Betsy special. And so they go, yes, we love North Star. Let's eat there.
Hooray!
Hooray! And I said, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. It fits really into I just really laid it on heavily because they know I'm into fitness. And then we get to the restaurant, and there are two counters where they order, and I'm ordering my meal. And God bless her, the girl behind the counter the young woman behind the counter was new, and she was learning how to use the computer, and it took a long time to get my order in. Usually it doesn't take that long, but most of the time they know what it is. And my friends were making jokes about it, right? And I just kind of rolled with the punches, right? And so it was a way of interacting. Now it doesn't always happen that way. I mean, if we went to Moretti's, I love Moretti's. Moretti's has lots of pasta. If we went to Moretti's, I would probably eat a little more pasta there than I would have wanted to eat. But that's okay, because I'm in my mind. I'm going, okay, well somehow I'm going to do something else that's going to help me drop the weight in the future, right? But I'm trying to be also assertive with who I am as an individual. So important. And to be relaxed about it, understand that other people may not understand where I'm coming from, and to be able to tell them where I'm coming from. So it actually has to do with my ability to be an individual in the presence of other people who may not think the way I think. And go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think the important piece of this is, so you have all of this going on internally, and a lot of people will just get stuck in that, like, oh, nowhere to go with that. I don't know what to say. Say that.
Right.
Say, I'm not really sure. I'm feeling a little awkward here, guys, because I mean, my goals are really important to me, and I have these certain places that really help facilitate the goal, and at the same time, I'm really worried about the dinner not being enjoyable for you. What do we do? Like, what do you guys want to eat? I would love to go here if you're willing. Like, put that out there.
Yes.
Instead of getting stuck, be authentic.
Yes.
Be genuine and put it out there.
Yes. Yes.
I have to ask why you can ignore the strong.
On a practical note.
This is a little complicated. With the fish sandwich, we get the fish. You have to say, I want the fish sandwich without the bun, but with the peanut slaw. and then no fries and the brown rice. And then also I want a second fish on the side. Now, it sounds simple, right? For whatever reason, it's always complicated.
That doesn't surprise me.
That's a pretty big change.
That's a pretty, and I have to admit, and I was so grateful, and you have to
I
be,
would be thinking about how could I make that easier for them? No bun,
Right.
double fish
Yeah.
with
Brown rice.
Brown rice.
and you know what, it's also anxiety provoking for me even to go up and tell them this, right? It's anxiety provoking for me to do that. And so I have to be okay with that kind of thing inside of myself to be able to actually go up and say,
You do
this is
that
what-
once, and then it's like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Does he do it a second time? Like,
Well, the North Star at
I
Easton,
keep doing that.
the North Star at Easton, now when Betsy and I come up to they know, okay, this is your dinner. No kidding, they know what we want. It's like, we don't have to say anything.
And sometimes, guys, you can call, on a practical note, call the restaurant to find out if they'll do something like that for you.
Most places, unless you're
Take
going
order.
and working, like going to see a really high-end chef, most places
Yeah.
will work with you.
Yeah?
Right,
I do the Buddha bowl
right,
with double chicken, extra veggies, sauce on the side,
right.
and it's awesome.
If you go to a restaurant that's a tasting restaurant, forget it. You're going to have to eat whatever they
Go
do.
and enjoy it.
Right. You're going to have to eat it, and you can enjoy it, right? So, now, do you think that's selfish? My order, and that's pretty complicated, isn't it? It could be looked as selfish, right? It could be.
I think as long as you go into it knowing that they might charge you extra and just be okay with that.
I'll pay. I know the work
It's
is.
gonna cost me $2
I don't think
to
it's
get
selfish,
vegetables
it's
instead of fries. That's cool.
All right. So okay.
It's
So okay. No,
particular.
hold on. This is really good. This is really good.
But no,
Good.
wait, let me change the word.
Absolutely.
It's
High needs.
it's particular. It's you have your tastes, and there's nothing wrong with your tastes.
And so this is interesting. So if you notice that there's a thing called Russell's conjugates. I don't know if you know. Obviously, you don't know Russell's conjugates. Bertrand Russell was a philosopher, and he discovered that people are motivated not by rational argumentation, by emotional argumentation. And so emotional argumentation meant that you use words in a way to create an emotion so the other person would not respond, or you're trying to win the argument. So here's the illustration, right? So there's a wonderful illustration. So picky, is that
You don't want to be a picky person.
I don't want to be a picky person. That's not good.
And you're not picky.
Or I could say,
He likes food.
or no, to put it this way, discriminating,
Discerning.
Particular.
unique. That's a
How
unique
how
way
many
of-
Inclusive.
of us? How many of us have been out to dinner with somebody and they're ordering at the table? Oh well, I don't eat dairy or gluten or things with eyeballs. Whatever it is, and you're going.
making some sort of emotionally
We actually-
laden language that
Right.
convinces you that this is not the right thing to do, right?
What somebody on Instagram said, I don't want to. I feel like I'm putting them out.
Yes, I've heard that a lot.
That is for a person, for instance, if you're an Enneagram. If you're in the Enneagram,
Can you show that to the cameras?
Enneagram has 9 different personality types, and number 2 is a person who serves, right? Serve. And their whole goal in life is to serve others, right? And a person who has a number 2 will look at that and go, I cannot do that. I can't do that. Because that's not serving them. I have to make sure that they're okay.
And the server doesn't care.
And the
They might. And you know what?
maybe they need to learn how to do it, right? Maybe the person in the back needs to really learn how to do the computer in a really complicated way so they feel really good about how to use a computer.
Or if the
It's
server
not-
is so wrapped up in their
it's not
emotions about your order, they need to move on with
It's
their
not
lives.
just about
Right.
the server, though.
It
Joe and
isn't.
I have had this conversation. It's about everyone else at the table and them having to wait for you to put in your complicated, discerning, picky, whatever you want to call it, order.
Yeah, and that's really where the pressure begins to build up. Because last night I was thinking, there's nobody behind me, and I'm so thankful there's nobody behind me.
That was in your head.
That was in my head, right?
How are the people behind me going to be put out because of the needs that I'm expressing right now?
Okay, so here's the other side of the story.
We'll let this be our last thought.
Okay,
and then we're gonna break
let me
for
just give
lunch.
the balance.
Yep.
So the other side of the story is in the Enneagram, you may be a person who's kind of obsessive compulsive, has to have things a certain way all the time, right? Right? So it's like, yes, so being obsessive compulsive is not a good thing, right? And so I remember one time when I was going to the gym, right? We were talking about this the other day. We were going to the gym, and my wife says, "You can't do this. You got to come home." I got angry. That's upsetting my schedule. You can't say that to me. I have to go to the gym, right? And so I'm not flexible, right? So I have to really understand who I am in my own life and say, what's important here? Relationship is important. I have to learn to let go of that. So I find the balance in life. So it's really about finding balance, really, in your life. The more you find your balance, I guarantee you, the more you'll be able to maintain the weight that you want.
And that balance will shift day to day.
And from year to year.
Thanks, guys. We have lots of food. Please eat with us and continue to ask questions.